everybody. I'm Peter Grant with Zaner Metals in Denver. Welcome to This Week in Metals. My colleague is with me as he always is, Peter Thomas. What do you know?
I know it's been a long and exciting week, and we have definitely tested both sides of the chart and support and resistance in all the metals, and I think we got a lot of stuff to cover, Pete.
Yeah, I thought this past week was kind of dull compared to the previous week, but what do I know?
Yeah,
Let's
it doesn't break $1.50 in silver. We haven't seen any movement, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, gold only had a $35 range, which, actually sounds okay on any, normal circumstance, except when you compare it to the previous week.
yeah,
Um,
okay,
But gold was up 0.9% last week. It did set a new 7-week low at
yes, it did.
1759.91 on Monday.
Yeah,
Well, again, consolidative at the low end of the recent range. But on the weekly chart, that lower low followed by a higher weekly close gives a little bit of a just a simple hook reversal,
yeah,
which might be something, but then again, it might not. So the dilemma right now for all the technicians is, are we forming a base,
yeah.
or is this some kind of continuation
Don't think
pattern
so, right?
within the new negative bias that has emerged over the last 2 weeks?
Well, let me
And
let me ask you something, Peter. I mean, is this still the playing tag with the dollar? Are we still watching dollar movement and then selling
yeah,
gold? It feels that way to me.
yeah. The dollar chart is kind of a mirror image in the
An
sense
indicator, yeah,
that
yeah,
we saw good gains 2 weeks ago. The market stabilized last week,
right,
and modestly corrective. So again, the question there is this, the dollar forming another top before it runs at the bottom again,
right.
or is it a continuation in the new impulse higher? I don't know the answer to that, in all honesty. I think that the long-term trend in gold and ergo the long-term trend in the dollar, long-term trend in gold is still up.
Yeah,
Long-term trend in the dollar is still down.
absolutely.
And so,
And you know what? I had an interview this morning with Bloomberg, and that's pretty much what I told him. I felt exactly what you just reiterated here. So,
yeah, I
yeah,
think the main underlying theme here is still inflation. I mean, if you had to find a fundamental, a major fundamental that the market seems to be reacting to, I think inflation is still the big one. But um, we're getting mixed messages from the Fed. The Powell,
oh yeah,
testified early in the week, early last week, that again sort of walked back some of the hawkishness that came out of the FOMC meeting 2 weeks ago, and then but some of the FOMC members and governors are still talking, taper and rate hikes
especially at
coming
St. Louis.
sooner
Yeah,
rather than later.
yeah.
So
Well, I agree with you. I think that the minute the taper word is used, there's just like abject panic going on, and they flip flopping between 2022 and 2023. That was Tuesday and Wednesday, and I think that's one of the reasons we saw some of the volatility that we saw. And it's been interesting. It's been a lot of stuff going on in the gold, and all of it has been really financially driven. No really big new finds. The only thing that really influenced the market, I thought that was interesting for our viewers, and we'll keep you in the loop on this, is the government of Indonesia is talking about opening a gold exchange. And if they do, we'd love to get involved in that because they produce a lot of metal and it's a great location, especially time zone wise for us. So we'll keep you in the loop on that one. That's really one of the big new things that just hit the market, Pete.
yeah, and stepping back to inflation real quick,
Sure.
the PCE data came out
Yeah.
on Friday.
Yeah.
With PCE data comes the Fed's favored indicator of inflation. The PCE chain price index rose 0.4%, now at
Yeah.
3.9% year over year.
Yeah.
Core PCE plus 0.5%, up 3.4% year over year. So again, well above the 2% inflation target that the Fed has touted for years now.
Mhm.
And it's also a 30-year high in
Oh,
their
no, no
favored.
mention
Yeah,
that.
we haven't
That.
seen 3.4 percent PCE inflation since 1991.
Wow. That's okay. That's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you.
Yeah. So
All
inflation
right.
is on the front burner for sure. Also worth mentioning, there was some good news about the infrastructure bill winding its way through Congress. There was apparently was a bipartisan compromise, a little bit shy of $600 billion, and the president seemed to be on board, and then Nancy Pelosi said she wasn't on board,
Right.
and
You know, I see. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the
That
president seemed to waffle. So
waffles.
I
What do
don't
you
know.
mean?
That clearly the Democrats want something, twice that basically.
Oh, three.
Yeah, more in the 1.3, 1.4 trillion dollar range. So bipartisan compromise optimism, no
Yeah.
doubt, no dice
On arrival.
from Nancy Pelosi, and
Yeah.
there is some unwinding of that optimism, shall we say,
Yeah.
late last week.
Yeah. So let's move on to the Silver Lady here. Uh,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention an author who just came out with a new book, Schellenberger, Michael. We're going to try to get him on the show, as a matter of fact. But he has a book out called Apocalypse Never, in which he talks about silver usage in solar arrays and things of that nature, also wind turbines and things like that. And he pointed out now that as they're doing the numbers, that the waste product left over from the life expectancy of these products, when you put your solar array on your roof, it only lasts for like a decade, in some cases a little more, a little less, depending. That disposal, because it is a toxic product after being exposed to the sun for these lengths of time, is 400% higher than anything normal silver waste. A lot of people will haul silver waste off for free. So I thought it was very interesting to see that the effect of the sun and the effect on the undisposability of the blades and the wind turbines and things like that are just astronomical as far as disposal rates go. Very, very interesting. So
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I think the message here is that green technology might not necessarily be as green as people
Right.
are led to believe. And
Yeah,
we know that, recycling of solar panels is a very difficult process. And so it is not
absolutely right.
generally done at this point because it's
No,
not
it's not.
economical to do so. But it's also worth mentioning that building solar panels, and air turbines for that matter, is very carbon intensive,
Yes,
to
it is.
say the least. So for solar panels, mining silica and so forth is very carbon intensive and generally polluting. And so again, you got to factor all that in.
Glad you mentioned silicates, because that is a very carbon intense mining, and also that 1.3 million slaves that were recently forced into a work camp for their religion, that are making these solar panels. We do recognize you guys. We saw what happened. There's people out here that know.
Yeah, so silver was up 1.4% last week. Much like gold, it's set a multi-week low on last Monday. 25.55 was that low, and then closed higher on the week. So again, a simple hook reversal on the weekly charts. Um,
Like our gold.
Closed above 26 bucks last week, which
Yeah.
I think is a little bit encouraging. I really need to see it get back above 27 before I'm you know, feeling pretty confident about that underlying uptrend.
Well, the
Uh,
battle was 26 bucks all day today. So we'll see where we end up. I think tonight, Sunday night's opening is going to be really interesting coming out of Asia. We'll see what happens.
yeah, and I like that. I'm going to say the 61.8% retracement level on the downside
Ah,
is intact, at least on a closed basis. We tested below it a little bit last week and then closed, pretty decisively above it. And again, as usual, I like that the ratio is holding below 70, the gold silver
yeah.
ratio. So there's some reason to be encouraged there.
Okay.
Despite what we said about green technology, I
Right.
don't think that ship is going to turn around anytime soon. There continues to
No.
be a big push into solar and wind power and electric vehicles and so forth. And I think that bodes well for silver. Um,
There's more than a boatload of chips that are going to be needing an awful lot of silver. Construction is going gangbusters on chips, especially out of Taiwan. So we're going to see demand, basic fundamental demand for the lowest R factor metal that there is, which is silver, followed by copper, platinum, palladium, of course. But I think demand is gonna be good.
So another reason I've got a little bit of optimism, at least with regard to silver, is because of those PGMs.
Oh yeah,
Platinum was up 7% last week, 5 consecutive days of gains after it set a 22-week low last Monday. It was off to the races on the upside, and that 22-week low was 1019. So it stopped well shy of the $1,000 level that we've talked about for the,
for quite a
in
while.
last week's show.
Yeah.
And that level seems to be pretty well protected at this point. So again, I'm encouraged. I'll be more encouraged if we close above 1140, 1150 in the weeks ahead. That's sort of a previous congestion zone that acted as support and will now act as resistance. But we get back above that, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the longer term uptrend.
Well, I think the flip side was that not only are the chip makers going to need product and automobile manufacturers as more and more people in the EU are moving away from the diesel after Volkswagen Gate and are going to the small, more energy productive 3 and 4 cylinder engines in the EU. So we're seeing a lot of autocats being created to reduce the NO2 footprint. And also the other thing is hedge funds. I don't know if you saw this week's numbers, but hedge funds were big sellers in the PGMs and really lightened up their positions. So I think we're at a 7 week low now. So if they come back in now at these levels, it'll be interesting because I think it'll be easy to push this oversold condition higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Palladium was also up 7% last week. It did not set a new cycle low last week. Instead, we had an inside week, kind of at the lower end of the previous week's range. Back above the trend line.
Right.
It's tried to get back above the 100-day moving average and the 38.2% retracement level late in the week. Couldn't quite do it, but there seems to be pretty decent upside momentum there. And as we suggested in the previous week, um, this setback looks like a pretty decent buying opportunity. At least people would likely be viewing it as such.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if I'm a COO of a major firm making AutoCADs, if I'm with General Motors, if I'm with Nissan, anyone like that, and I see that a good solid, multiple $100 break, I'm a buyer because I know that in 2023, 2024, I'm still going to need product, and whether it's for boards, whether it's for chips across completely across the way, they need like 7 chips per car now. So there's demand is still there. It's just it's a little bifurcated is all.
And I would posit that the supply deficit is not really going to improve over the next
Well
several
put.
years.
Well put. Absolutely
Yeah.
right. And that's been like you said. We can look at that for at least 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years. Even though North Nickel, as we informed you before, is producing from mine number 2, which has been down for a while. It's still going to take a while to put a dent in supply, if ever.
Yeah, if ever, I think is the main
Yeah.
point. I mean, even when Nornickel, the Siberian mines were operating at full capacity before the floods, the market had been in deficit for years,
Yes.
and it's just uh, given the current situation with regards to mining palladium and how difficult it is to mine palladium and find new projects and
Look at the confidence, Pete. I mean, they've been shut down from from that underground river that flooded them out. They've been shut down for quite a while. So what do? They put in all new equipment, and then on top of that, they came out yesterday and bought $64 million, 64 million shares of their own company back and put it in. So they're not hurting for money, and they're certainly not lacking confidence.
yeah.
Yeah.
Copper.
Hey, our good
Copper
friend.
made a pretty decent recovery last week as
Really
well.
did.
It was up almost 4%.
Good.
Again, it set a 10-week low early last week at 408.70, and then was higher for the bulk of the rest of the week. Held trend line support. It's back above the 100-day moving average. Again, I'm looking for additional upside follow through to return some confidence to the dominant uptrend. That level I'm watching is kind of 436 to 440,
All right.
um, and
Well, you know, our scrappers are making good money. They're moving product. We're not hearing any complaints out in the field from our producers, from our scrappers. So right now, these individuals are fairly comfortable at 4.25 to 435, even 450. They're making good money. And look at bottom line is that we Matt Watson came out with he really an interesting guy, and he just came out with some stats on copper, which said in 30 years we're going to run out. That's it. There's just no more ore. And if you guys that follow us on Twitter, that follow us and our various postings in LinkedIn and Facebook, we were talking about this. You know, recyclers are accounting for about 30% of the copper here, and it took 20 years and $2 billion to open the last mine in Arizona. I mean, it's just insane. There's no way we can catch up with the regulations strangling the miners. So I can't be bearish copper, Peter. I can't.
yeah, it's there's really not much you can substitute for it
Yeah.
until copper prices catch up to silver prices, I suppose.
Okay. Because they both do the same thing, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, bottom line is they're both look at if you build an electric car and it uses 120 pounds of copper, and before it only used 20 to 30, you know, your demand is going up. You know, there was a there's a project in Morocco, which is going to supply England with electricity. All right. Very fascinating project. And they're talking about creating a cable. It's going to hook into this solar array in the desert, and it's going to be an underwater or a submerged cable, as it's referred to. It's 4 meters wide. And oh, by the way, it's 2,300 miles long. One project. They said, hey, this is great. We're going to build a solar array, run it underwater. It's all going to be clean. And oh, by the way, it's only going to take 7% of all the copper available to make this cable. Nobody bothered to mention that. If China's buying 63% of all the product produced, and one project takes up 7%, there's only 30% of the copper in the world available. And all these cars are going to be coming on at triple the consumption levels. It's going to be very interesting. I would be very careful about selling this market.
I would hope that the Moroccans and the Brits hedge themselves in copper at a lower price.
Yeah. Well, you know, we were again close to that $4 level. We could have helped them there. There's no
Yeah,
question
right.
about it, you know. And they
Hey,
have opened
also,
the trading
uh,
floor in London again.
yeah, it's also
Huh?
worth mentioning that May new home sales came out last
Oh,
week.
yeah.
As we expected, it was a little bit of a disappointment.
Not
but not a
much less.
huge one. It came in
Yeah.
at 769,000. Market was
Okay.
expecting 870,000 versus negative revised 817,000 in April. So it was a miss, not
But
not a
not
huge
much, and you know
one.
what? It just goes to the chain, goes to the supply chain. That's really a problem. I mean, getting lumber, yeah, there's just a lack of truck drivers. There's a lack of
Getting
carpenters.
copper because it's all going to Morocco.
That's right. That's right. And all the zinc that is disappearing going to China, which is just they're just gobbling up, which they use on nails so they don't rust. There's a whole lot of small things that you guys don't see that we do, and there's a lot of base metals getting gobbled up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we're easy to find. We're on all the social media channels
right.
and on LinkedIn. And at the end of this video, that list of where to find us will be there. Let's talk about the week ahead here.
Perfect.
On Monday's a quiet day,
Yeah,
nothing really on the calendar. But Tuesday we've got Case Shiller home price index and the
price.
FHFA
Yeah.
home price index. I'm anticipating prices of housing has gone up. That's my call
Whatever would bring that to mind.
because that's the only direction it goes.
Yeah, well,
But I'll
generally,
tell you, Pete,
but that's
I
not
think
always true if you survive 2008, right?
right. Well, in my
Mhm.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
prices stayed steady.
Oh,
So
did
thank
they?
goodness for that. But
My house lost 60% of its value
yeah,
in three months. I was just like, what? Yep.
right.
Yep.
So yeah, so we've got that and also consumer confidence. On Wednesday, we've got the ADP employment survey, which occasionally gives us a little bit of insight into non-farm payrolls and so
Right.
forth. Um, Thursday, we've got manufacturing PMIs and ISMs, and then we have auto sales, which will be interesting for the
That'll be
copper
very
market and
interesting.
palladium and silver. I think market's expecting 2.7 million cars and 9.7 million light trucks.
It's a nice
And
number.
then on Friday, the big jobs number,
Yeah.
non-farm payroll expectations are plus 700,000. We're expecting
Big
the
number.
unemployment rate to retrace from the May gains to 5.8. The market's looking for a downtick to 5.6%. And then we also have factory orders on Friday. So
That's an important number too. I'm glad you left
yeah.
put that in. Factory orders are always an excellent indicator for us as far as copper usage and things like that.
Yeah. So with that, I think we've covered all of our bases. We can be found, if you have a need for physical metal,
Yeah,
we're in good shape on that. And we're at
yeah, we are, aren't we?
zanerpreciousmetals.com
Doing a great, Peter, you've
there.
been doing a great job. I don't know how you do it. I see people with saying 4, 6, 8 weeks out to delivery. I go into our stuff and you're right there, man. We're like, hey, we'll get out to you this week. Don't worry about a thing. So
Well, you'll know what we
do the
have.
hat, buddy.
I don't like to do that 4, 6, 8 week delivery deal.
Yeah,
And because sometimes 4, 6, 8 weeks turns into 10, 10, 15 weeks.
yeah, all
And then
right.
you've got disappointed clients and we
Yeah.
we don't like to do that. So
Well, that's cool.
uh,
I'm just saying it's just nice to see that we're one of the few people that can get it to you when you need it. I think also we need to mention our hedging. We do have the Tornado platform. If you're a bullion dealer, if you're a coin dealer, if you're an industrialist, if you're a refiner, if you're mining and you want to hedge seam production, we're available for you. That is probably one of the greatest tools out there to protect your business, to protect your family, things like that.
yeah,
Um,
tornadobullion.com is where you can find information on the Tornado
Thank
platform. And
and
we
and
have
our
a new,
midweek letter, by the way, if you want to catch up on what's happened, like on a Wednesday, you've been busy and you want to, you go, why are we here? Pete Grant puts out Grant on Gold, which is in all the chat rooms out there and on LinkedIn, and so that's always a good one to kind of get your breath midweek.
thanks, Pete.
You bet.
All right. So we've done our marketing piece.
Hell yeah.
So I'm Peter Grant with Zaner Metals in Denver. Have a great
And
week.
Pete Thomas in sunny Chicago, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Give us a like, give us a follow. This will be in your mailbox every week, and we appreciate you.